Some people look towards the fossil evidence as evidence of evolution. First of all, they claim to observe some kind of general progression in the fossil record. For example, they say in the earliest layers we see only one-celled creatures, and then at some higher level we see primitive animals, and at a higher level we see the first apes and monkeys coming into existence, and at the next levels we see primitive ape men coming into existence, and finally only in the most recent levels do we see human beings like ourselves appearing. In my book, Forbidden Archaeology, I showed that that picture of the fossil record is not true. You can actually find fossil evidence for human beings like us at all levels, although this evidence isn't very well known. So it's possible to dispute the progression, the general progression that many people claim that the fossil evidence reveals. Another way in which the fossil evidence is used to support the Darwinian theory of evolution is to claim that one can clearly see an evolutionary progression. If we put different fossils in a row, we can see some kind of progression. But the very fact that you observe a progression is not a proof of how that pattern came about. For example, we could make a display of automobiles. We could take, for example, we could make a display of motor vehicles. We could put at the first part of the display some motorcycles with two wheels. Then, in some parts of the world, they have three-wheeled motor vehicles. For example, in India, they have auto rickshaws, which look like that. They're motorized, but they have three wheels. Then you could put four-wheel vehicles there, perhaps starting with a very small automobile. Then you could put a bigger kind of four-wheeled motor vehicle there, maybe one with 8 cylinders rather than 6 cylinders. And then you could put 6-wheeled motor vehicles in the progression and 8-wheeled motor vehicles in progression, bigger. But it's a fact that each of those vehicles was designed and manufactured separately. It's not that one came from the other in some kind of progression like that. So the fact that you can arrange fossils in a progression does not tell you how that progression arose. It could be by the mechanisms that evolutionists talk about, but then they would have to demonstrate that in terms of their theory, because their theory is not a theory about fossils, it's a theory about genetics producing changes in the physical structures of organisms, which are then acted on by natural selection, which preserves the changes that are beneficial for the organism. So in order to demonstrate that the fossil progression arose by the evolutionary mechanisms, they would have to specify what was the genetic structure of the first animal in the progression. Then they would have to show exactly what were the genetic changes in that animal that resulted in the next animal in the progression. And that they haven't done in any detailed scientific way. They simply assert, that it happened. So, the fossil record isn't any proof for the Darwinian theory of evolution. It may be consistent with some of the things that the theory proposes, but it may also be consistent with other theories like intelligent design and creationism, especially. So we have to go to another level if we want to use the fossil record for support of the Darwinian theory of evolution as opposed to other things. They would have to demonstrate how all the transitional fossils arose according to changes in the genomes of the different animals. They would have to specify what those changes were and how they resulted in the observed physical changes. Without such evidence, the so-called sequences of fossils could be the result of an intelligent designer making use of modifications of some particular design. You know, just like inventors today, they don't always invent everything new totally. They may make use of existing forms and they may modify them to produce subsequent forms.